And here it is, that extra love that Gadget said would be shown to the French. You got it, boys. We're finally receiving the Charles Leclerc. Mon Dieu, it's a magnifique. Anybody types the words AMX56 in the comments and you're getting a downvote. Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to War Thunder with Koala, and today's devlog... Whoa, this is a big one. Lads and lasses, coming to you War Thunder in update 1.89 is France's proper modern main battle tank, the solid gold Series 1 Charles Leclerc. First things first, am I the only one who thinks that this tank looks like it got punched in the face by Thanos? This certainly wasn't a surprise, but it is a very welcome addition, highly anticipated. France will finally have some top tier tanks for its helicopters to actually support, as well as being... well, good. This thing will be good. And I wouldn't put it past Gaijin to give it a massive repair cost, because realism. The Leclerc is a tank that would finally replace the AMX-30, France's old-school Leopard 1 style MBT that was outdated the minute it rolled off the production line. The AMX-32 and AMX-40 that were developed subsequently from the AMX-30 design were both designed purely for the export market, and in real life were both absolute flops that did not receive any orders from foreign nations, and hence never left the prototype stage. Despite study and research on the AMX-30's potential replacement beginning all the way back in the mid-1960s, development of the new tank was slow, to say the least. However, as T-72s began rolling around Russia in the early 70s, it definitely became a high priority for France to either work out who they were going to buy from, or develop something of their own that could bring their cavalry up to par with the rest of NATO. At this point, both the Leopard 2 and M1 Abrams were in development phases, and as the two brothers-in-arms were entering service with their respective nations in 1979, France began seriously looking at procuring a main battle tank to match up. The purchase of foreign equipment was considered, with France looking at the M1 Abrams and Leopard 2, as well as Israel's Merkava, funnily enough, but this idea was quickly scrapped. Too expensive, I guess, right? That's a bad joke. No, France would build her own MBT named the Napoleon I. Originally, this was a joint project between the French and German defence companies, similarly to the previous generation's Europanzer, which served as the basis for the eventual Leopard 1, and this tank, the Napoleon, was known to the Germans as the Kampfpanzer III. Before long, the project fell solely on France's shoulders due to the outlined requirements for the tank being too unique to accommodate the mutual development, the same problem which had actually befallen the aforementioned Europanzer 30-something years prior. The French military and the companies responsible for producing the new tank set their goals high. The vehicle would achieve 50% greater effective armour than its current contemporaries, and yet be lighter and more nimble than any of them. The tank's fire control system was also heavily focused on, as was the auto-loading system. The name Leclerc did not come around until 1986, when the production of the first 6 prototypes began, and the name AMX56? Well, that designation is completely fictional, and was never applied to the tank in any official way. It's supposed that the designation 56 refers to the weight of the tank, however that makes no sense, as even the first production variant of this tank, the Series 1 we are getting, weighed 54 tons, not 56, and other preceding French tanks such as the AMX-30, 32 and 40 do not weigh 30, 32 or 40 tons respectively either. What's more, the prefix AMX refers to workshops and factories in a particular location in southern Paris, which I'm not going to try to pronounce, where, guess what? The Leclerc was not built, at least not in its production form. The company responsible for manufacturing the Leclerc main battle tank is, or was, Giat Industries, which is now Nexter, and have merged with the German company Kreisma 5 Eggman to assume their final fucking form, KNDS. Basically, think Power Rangers. No, not that new bullshit for millennials. The official prefix for the Leclerc tank is Char, which literally means tank in French, so well done for making it uncomplicated. As for where the designation AMX56 came from, not a clue, but don't say it. You look dumb. The other joke I've been making throughout this video is based on the price of the Leclerc, which was in 2011 the single most expensive main battle tank in the entire world, with a cost per unit of 9.3 million euros. This is around 50% more than an M1A2 Abrams or Leopard 2A6, around double the price of a Challenger 2, and up to 3 times the cost of a T90S. If you need context, I don't have it for you. How nobody convinced the French that this might be slightly too much for their tank, I'll never know. And I suppose we never will, because France is still making upgrades for the bastards. It's not as stupid as it might sound. The Leclerc is obviously an effective tank, I don't think anybody would dispute that, and no matter what you might say about which tank is best, or how the Leclerc isn't combat proven, or what have you, don't tell me that you'd like to be at the business end of this thing. But one thing the French did in order to offset the enormous cost of the tank was to look for a formal partner in the venture that would serve to reduce the per unit cost by increasing the number of tanks to be manufactured, and they found one in the United Arab Emirates. The UAE actually ordered more of these tanks than were planned for the French military itself, and somehow this single foreign power has proven enough of an avid buyer so as not to cripple the French economy, as they produce over 800 of the bloody things. Now, French Leclercs haven't really seen combat. They have been deployed to Kosovo and Lebanon in peacekeeping missions, but haven't needed to fire a shot in anger. The UAE's Leclerc tanks, however, have seen active combat, and this has exposed some various weaknesses of the vehicle, which we'll go over momentarily. I guess we'll have to hope World War III happens so that France might have an excuse to finally throw their solid gold tanks at hordes of advancing Russian— Fuck, that was a joke, I'm sorry. Oh boy, I can't say that, I'm gonna get my channel demonetized. Not only is the Leclerc the lightest true main battle tank throughout NATO, but it's also the only one to feature a coaxial 50 caliber machine gun. It is also home to an impressive autoloader which can achieve a fire rate of 12 rounds per minute, or 1 every 5 seconds. According to Gaijin, that's what we're getting, although like with Japan's Type 90, it is said to be able to, I guess, overload, firing at shorter intervals but only getting a few rounds off with this increased fire rate before risking damage to the autoloader itself. For some more statistics, the Leclerc is fast, really fast. With a 1500 horsepower diesel engine, which is almost overkill for the comparatively minuscule weight of this tank compared to something like an Abrams, the Leclerc can achieve an on-road top speed of 72 km an hour, and similarly to the AMX-40 we see in game, its high-speed manoeuvrability is also something to behold. Now, this is a diesel motor, not the turbines we see in the Abrams and T-80s, so the Leclerc will take a second to get going. It won't have that instantaneous torque and acceleration that those MBTs do. However, there is an argument to be made that none of that is really modelled accurately in War Thunder anyway. The Leclerc also has a very nice off-road speed and reversing rate that almost matches the Abrams at, I believe, 38 km per hour, made specially for those situations where you just gotta retreat, am I right? The high-speed manoeuvrability of this tank means that this is one MBT that IRL can actually drift around corners and bounce over obstacles the way our much heavier Abrams and Challengers do in War Thunder. By the way, can we please get someone in to fix that, Gaijin? In War Thunder though, this may not be such a good feature of the Leclerc, as from my experience with the AMX-40, having such manoeuvrability makes the tank twitchy and difficult to control, given that we're using computer keys with a binary setting rather than true tank controls. The Leclerc's main armament is a domestically designed 120mm smoothbore gun, 52 calibers in length, designated CN120-26. This is a slight upgrade over the AMX-40's gun, and I'm guessing that it will be firing the same shells, as the more modern OFL 120F1 shells fired by the Leclerc in service can penetrate over 600mm of rolled homogeneous steel. These are the German DM43 rounds, which perform very similarly to the American M829A2 depleted uranium APFSDS. However, given the longer barrel length of the Leclerc and therefore higher muzzle velocity, these rounds will penetrate even more armour than they would out of the Rheinmetall L44. Now, I'm unsure as to whether the Series 1 Leclerc fired this round, the OFL 120F1 or DM43, out of the gate. Those rounds would have been exported when the tank entered service, but in War Thunder, my bets are on us receiving the exact same ammunition as the AMX-40. However, this MBT may be placed after the AMX-30 B2 Brennus rather than going into the experimental line. This gun, like the vast majority of NATO tank guns, is capable of firing all standard NATO ammunition, but in practice has only been loaded with baguette rounds IRL, and surely will be in War Thunder. What this means is that the tank will have M1A1 levels of penetration, and probably the same ballistic trajectory or close to it, while achieving greater speed and mobility, and having far superior armor protection, superior even to that of the M1A2 Abrams. This is power creep. This is the definition of power creep. No, this is power leap. I will say though that the Leclerc is still inferior to the Leopard 2A5 with its basically impenetrable turret no matter what is fired at it. One day we will get rounds that can penetrate the Leclerc, we won't get any that'll penetrate the 2A5's turret. What is this armour like, you ask? Well, the Leclerc's armour is made up of modular composite pieces that can be applied or removed as per the requirements of the situation. The standard outfit, I suppose you would say, for this tank, however, gives roughly 500 to 550mm versus kinetic energy munitions over most of the turret face, including the sides. Or not the flat sides, you'll be able to go through that with anything at top tier, but I would say from the 30-degree arc, you're looking at a minimum of around 500mm on the turret. There are locations on the turret, however, that reach 600mm, it all depends on where you shoot, and some outfits of the tank result in the gunner, specifically the gunner, sitting behind a whopping 700mm of KA effective composite armour. All that on a tank that weighs less than 60 tons. Oh yeah. The thing is, that place right in front of the gunner, that's here, and as you can see in this image, which I'm just talking to a blank screen right now, but I'll edit in the specific image I'm talking about, this kind of rounded curving armour shape that skirts around the turret face and sides is also placed on top of this flat portion in front of the Leclerc's gunner. This is an example of the modular armour being used. It's present here, but not here, for example, in this image. You can see the big flat part there. Gaijin, however, has modelled the Leclerc in the devblog without this extra piece, and yet still state that it can achieve up to 700mm KE effectiveness, quote, at its strongest points. What they're referring to is this plate. This is its strongest point, by far. Even the modern M1A2 SEP V2 does not achieve 700mm KE effectiveness anywhere front on. The SEP V3, or M1A2C as it's now known, may achieve this level. We don't know enough about it to say. So if the tank can still achieve those levels of protection, either that means that the modular armour is going to be represented to us in the form of upgrade modules and modifications to the vehicle in the hangar, or that someone at Gaijin has just mucked up somewhere. Wouldn't it be the first time, eh? Please fix the FJ4 model. The thing is, the Leclerc's armour coverage is, well, all over the place. As I said, from 30 degrees off to the right side of the tank, you're seeing only 500mm armour effectiveness. The hull is quite strong at 500mm kinetic energy on the upper frontal plate, but the lower glacis, that big lower glacis, hello Challenger, is that you down there, is going to be penetrable by a lot of tanks at top tier, and the small size of the tank means that if you pen there, you're likely to kill the gunner by shooting him in the foot, as well as obviously the driver. The turret has many weak points, especially if you shoot high, although here you do have a lower chance of actually killing someone inside the tank. The biggest weak point, however, is the gun mantlet. Seriously, the side hull has better protection than the cannon breech that this tank does. It's paper thin, and this is one of those weaknesses I mentioned earlier that we've seen come to light since the UAE had to deploy these tanks to active combat zones and had their gun mantlets penetrated by 20mm autocannons. I'm sorry, France, but for the most expensive tank in history, you missed a bit. This means that any IFV's guns, even most SPAA guns at close range, should be able to penetrate the Leclerc frontally, technically. The thing I see being an issue with the Leclerc, however, is that, sure, you'll breach it, but will you be able to easily kill it? See, the one thing that the Leclerc does have is that the gun mantlet is comparatively smaller than something like the Leopard 2A4, Abrams, Type 90 or Challenger series gun mantlets. So you might render it unable to shoot you back, but this is a fast tank that will be able to relocate, and even though the autoloader reduces it to a 3-man crew, which is never a good thing in War Thunder, if you kill a crew member, it will still retain that 5-second reload, and when it does hit you, it's going to hit you like a runaway train. The problem in War Thunder is that you can't guarantee that tanks won't hit your weak spots, and this is a problem that all tanks face at top tier. They have very good armour over most of the available target surface, at least at long range, but we don't fight at long range, and the weak spots of composite armoured MBTs are extremely weak. Look at the gun mantlets, lower plates and turret rings of most of our top tier tanks. IRL, these weak spots are inconsequential because incoming rounds are so unlikely to hit them. I was actually talking to an M1A2 commander who served in Afghanistan, and he was saying that when they aimed at enemy tanks, they always aimed centre of mass, not for specific weak points like optics, breaches, lower plates, that kind of thing. They just couldn't hit them at standard combat ranges, their guns weren't accurate enough. They had to aim centre of mass in order to guarantee hitting the enemy tank at all. The Leclerc may have some very good armour, fantastic actually, in its strong points, but all that means is that you'll never bounce a shot, because who's going to bother hitting you there? You'll get breached, you'll get your turret ring knocked out, and potentially someone could even manage a 2-crewman shot if they hit your lower hull, taking out your tank because of the 3-man crew. By the way, the chemical armour of the tank is up in the 1000mm range on the turret, but the hull is susceptible to missiles like the Hot 2s and the TOW 2s fired by helicopters, the Attackers fired by the Mi-35, and as of the next patch, the new Russian ATGM vehicle, the MTLB, as well as, I believe, the Milan 2 that the Warrior fires. You might penetrate its hull with that. It's really nothing too special down there, only 700mm I believe. Regardless, the Leclerc S1 is something I'm seeing becoming a very powerful top tier tank, tying with or even potentially beating out the Leopard 2A5 for the top spot, simply down to the improved gun, fire rate and mobility, those being the three primary factors for success in top tier War Thunder games, at least in realistic mode. It is somewhat concerning that the tank appears to lack a top mounted machine gun for firing in helicopters, and I am eager to see just how extensive its weak points are. They may reduce its effectiveness, and I'm also keen to see if Gaijin represents the tank's modular armour in the modifications tab. I think that would actually be cool to see. You know, increase the weight, decrease the speed, but improve the level of protection if that's what you want. That sounds very interesting to me personally. One thing I personally love hearing about and exploring is outfits and retrofits to vehicles outside the realms of, I guess you could say, standard for that specific unit. I'm very excited to see the Leclerc in-game. I'm sure you French fries are too, although I'm now expecting even more that we'll see the M1A1HA and T90 this patch too, which may render the Leclerc slightly less hype-worthy, at least outside the communities of patriotic French players. Either way, you go enjoy your new tank. It may be the first time in War Thunder's history that an auto-loading tank takes the spot for the top performer in the game, but at the same time, that Leopard 2A5 over there is still looking pretty tough. Whatever you say about power creep, or power leap in this case, actually I think that's what I'm going to title this video, but whatever your thoughts are, it's nice to see France finally getting a top performer. Now we just need Japan to assume the top spot in the waves, Britain to get a high performance jet fighter like the Park Lightning, and Italy to grab a nice helicopter tree, and we'll finally be showing some love to the minor nations, eh? Anyway lads, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Went on a wee bit longer than I expected, but what can I say? This is a big development and a highly anticipated tank. And once again, something I said was likely in my 1.89 predictions. I'll get off my high horse when I'm good and fucking ready, okay? Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit that notification bell, join the 360 squad, and as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below, as well as anything that I might have missed out or gotten wrong. Come follow me on Twitter and Twitch, join the Discord, and check out Patreon if you wish to support me further as a creator and access some nice rewards as a bonus. Thank you lads for watching, have a lovely good day, and always remember, keep your bagpipes to hand, your kilt on, and I shall see you in the next video. I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. Captain Fubar, DA261, Gisli Gadarsson, and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.